Welcome to the NCDWI Guy podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI Guy, Jake Minnick.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. That's my attempt at Broadway right there. That's the Broadway future life of Jake in the Don Quixote version of The Man of La Mancha on Broadway. Love that song. Love that song. Love the musical. Love the book. Great story. And today we are talking about dreaming the impossible dream. Welcome, fellow freedom fighters, to the NCDWI Guy podcast, starting off with a musical number. So get ready to rock and roll here. What you notice from that song. So the reason why we're kicking off with The Man of La Mancha is because this quarter at the office, we are talking about setting impossible goals, and how do we achieve those things. This is inspired by Colin O'Brady's book, The Impossible First. The Impossible First is the theme of our quarter here at the office going into quarter number 4. And Colin is going to be speaking at the Freedom Fighter Summit here in 3 weeks. So buckle up. If you saw our sizzle reel that we released of Colin, you got to be pumped. You got to be psyched. I mean, this guy is a 10-time world record holding explorer, New York Times bestseller, just an incredible human being. He's got an incredible story. And when Colin went on this Impossible First mission, his book, The Impossible First, is based on his deciding to attempt the first unassisted, unsupported crossing of Antarctica, the 1,000 mile or so landmass of Antarctica, basically unsupported, using no drops in terms of food, not using any kind of propeller system of kites or any other fans or anything like that, dogs, basically carrying his 370 some odd pounds of weight on his sled across the Antarctic landmass. And when Colin set the name of this mission, he called this attempt The Impossible First. It wasn't with this kind of like macho mindset of this is impossible. Even though a lot of people had said that it was an impossible attempt, number of people had previously tried, and some of them died attempting this type of unassisted land crossing. It wasn't look at me, I'm going to do the impossible first, or this arrogance of hey, I'm going to put an impossible goal out there. It was really, I think, a humble exploration into this might be more than I can chew. And so calling it The Impossible First wasn't from my reading of Colin's book, wasn't a prideful naming of his exploration. It wasn't this arrogant mindset. It was truly a dive into humility of what might stretch my physical and particularly mental limits. Well, this seems like a appropriate stretch of the mind. Is this something that I could actually achieve? And so we're gonna talk about goal setting as we go here into quarter number 4. I like to do, as you guys have noticed here, the audience that has been with me for a long time, I like to do these regular goal setting episodes where we kind of talk about how to set goals and achieve big things. I like to do this around kind of each quarter. I often focus on what we're focusing on theme wise at the office, but this is a particularly good one because it's going to be helpful in terms of goal setting for quarter number 4, which is coming up here in a couple of days. But it's also going to be a good goal setting thing for 2024 and beyond as we get ready to move here in just a few months into a new year. So we're going to talk about a couple of problems with big, hairy, audacious goals, with long-term goals. Why do goals get set and not achieved? Where do they often fail from a kind of 10,000 foot view perspective? What is the issue with goal setting? And so we're gonna start by kind of talking through some of those failures. So I'm talking through three failures. Failure number 1 is that you have to set a goal that is compelling. I just finished reading Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last. Wonderful book. Really recommend it. If you want to become a better leader in your workplace, in your community, in the bar, wherever it might be that you're a leader in your family. This is an amazing book on leadership. And one of the things among many, it's a very well-researched book that Sinek points out, is that the millennial generation, my generation, is really drawn to big dreams, really drawn into work environments is really where he's focusing, but really drawn into work environments where they can see the big picture mission of what is going on. And, from my perspective, that's just something that I have definitely found attractive in my own life. But I think it's made a huge difference in terms of our organization growing and our firm being able to kind of move in the direction that we are hoping to move, having a big, hairy, audacious goal and core values that align with that big, hairy, audacious goal, understanding our identity and our missions, core values being who we are and our mission being where we are headed, is so important for us as a firm. So, again, the kind of number one issue that I see with goal setting is that it's not compelling. When you look at this song from the Man of La Mancha musical, To Dream the Impossible Dream, it's just so powerful. Again, I sang the first couple of stanzas. I'm just going to read the next couple so that anybody that was able to force their way through the opening of this episode doesn't tune out now. I made you suffer there for a couple of moments. But the next couple of stanzas are really powerful as well. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know, if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this. that one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. Now, what do you notice about this impossible dream? Well, this isn't the stanzas that you hear in the impossible dream. To eat greens and fruit from the tree, to exercise at least 4 times a week, to read a book in my bed, to meditate more in my head, right? Like, I mean, that's total BS, right? Like, I mean, and the reason why, it's not that those things are bad. Eating greens and eating healthy is important. Exercise is important. Reading a book is important. Meditating is important. But the issue is, I think most of us set these goals that are not compelling. If you think about people's New Year's resolutions, a lot of those things are on there, right? Like, I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to read more this year. I'm going to read a book, whatever it might be. Why? Why are you going to read a book? So you can say that you read a book? Is that like the purpose of reading a book? So that you can say that you check that box? Why are you going to exercise 4 times a week? If that's not connected to some bigger picture vision, then it's not compelling. Why are you going to eat healthier? If it's not connected to some bigger picture thing, then it's basically just unnecessary suffering. And 3 weeks in to January, when everybody starts to fall off the rails with their New Year's resolutions and all those gym memberships that got purchased fall to the wayside, it's because it wasn't compelling. You're exercising for no reason. You're exercising because you think that other people are judging how your body looks. You think, well, you know, I'd kind of like to be in a little bit better shape, but there's no instant results. It's not connected to some longer term vision. It's not connected to overall health, wellness, the mental clarity that comes with exercise. You know, there's no bigger picture vision that is connected. So if we don't have a compelling vision, a compelling goal, we're not going to achieve that impossible dream. In Colin O'Brady's project, The Impossible First. Again, what is Don Quixote saying in these words? To fight the unbeatable foe, right? To go up against some badass monster, right? Like that's what we find compelling. It's not to get out of bed in the morning. That's not a compelling dream. To run where the brave dare not go. That's a pretty crazy thing to think about, right? Like, I mean, this song is so awesome. But where the brave dare not go. Think about that. I mean, like, you know, that if you want to be, in the words of David Goggins, his mindset was, I want to be uncommon amongst uncommon men. Navy SEALs are the most badass soldiers on planet Earth, right? Like, that's the way that the public perceives these people. Goggins' mindset was, I want to be uncommon against this group of uncommon soldiers. That's what Don Quixote is expressing in these words. To run where the brave dare not go. To try when your arms are too weary. To reach the unreachable star. To achieve the impossible, right? To get to that big picture goal that is so far away. And so again, this has got to be a impossible dream. And so I think that what most of us do when we set, you know, these New Year's resolutions is we just don't have these things connected to a compelling vision. If you want a couple of tools that are really powerful for planning purposes, take a look at EOS's Personal Family Vision and Traction Organizer plan. It's free. If you just look up EOS Personal Family V/TO, that will come up. You could also use Scaling Up's one-page personal plan. If you just type up scaling up OPPP, that's going to pop up in the search results, and it's a free tool. These are such great tools. I've used both of them in the past in terms of looking long term. And what do you notice about both of these tools when you take a look at them? They're both designed very similarly. What do they have on them? Well, they have, what is your big picture vision? What's your 10-year goal? What are your core values? What are your passions? And then they have the 1 year and quarterly rocks, the 1 year goals and the quarterly rocks that support this longer term vision. But it's a great way of organizing this information. And this is actually kind of a good transition into point number 2 in terms of problems with setting a big, hairy, audacious goal, is that many times it's too short-sighted. It's too short-sighted. Again, with the New Year's resolution, even if we were dedicated, even if people were dedicated to doing something for a year, like this year, 2024, I am going to work out 4 times a week. This year, 2024, I am going to cut out junk food for the entire year, right? Like even if we were serious, which I don't think most people that set New Year's resolutions really have any mental intention of doing something for an entire year. It's kind of like, I'm going to do this until I basically don't feel like doing it anymore. There's nobody that's like sitting down at their desk writing these things out. Not nobody. Very few people are, sitting down and really thinking through, okay, here's what I want to do this year. Here's like the game plan for 2024. But even if there was those serious people that were like, you know what, I'm focused to doing the right things for 1 year. The problem is 1 year isn't long enough to go about achieving the impossible dream. It's not long enough to get a impossible first project completed. We need a much longer term vision of where we are moving. And I think, we kind of, often, I've got now a couple of teenagers. I've got 2 daughters that are 15 and 16. I've got a number of additional teenagers on the way. So I'm going to be in the teenage years for the next decade plus. I've got teenage years cut out in my life for a long time. I'm going to be talking to teenagers and then to my kids as they go into their early 20s. And what do we say often about young people around this age? Oh, they're too short-sighted. They don't think far enough out, right? Like they're not thinking about how this decision impacts them down the road. And so that's why they get into trouble, right? Like this is one of the excuses or faults that we put on people in their teenage years, is they're not thinking long-term enough. But are we thinking long-term enough? Are we regularly sitting down and thinking, what do I want my life to look like 25 years down the road, 10 years down the road? Where do I want to be? Do I want to be working 70 hours a week 25 years down the road? Do I want to be running around from courthouse to courthouse 25 years down the road, trying to get after it? Maybe that is what you want to be doing. But for most of us that kind of dream of having maybe more freedom in our lives, what are we doing with that freedom in our future vision? Are we sitting on a beach somewhere with a cocktail, which is going to get old in about 3 or 4 days? Maybe a week. I think I could do a week of cocktails on the beach. So let me not be hypocritical. I think I could enjoy that for a week, but it get pretty boring fast. So what are we doing with all that free time? And then beyond that, how are we working today to make sure that we have that free time? down the road? How are we planning for that space down the road? What are we planning to do with our lives long term? So I think that the issue is that the way that most of us set resolutions, the way that most of us set goals, is that we think in a very short period of time. And it's great to have quarterly goals and 1 year goals. In fact, you can't achieve that vision, that long-term vision, without those shorter term pieces to success. But there's no point in making short-term goals, the quarterly goals that are so important, the 1 year goal that is so important, if you don't have something bigger that you are planning on. And that, I think, is kind of going back to this lack of compelling drive, is that all of these things that we say are impossible in our lives really do take a ton of energy and thought and consistent action over lengthy periods of time. And so most of us are just like, I'm going to just kind of go on living my comfortable and complacent life. I'm going to keep doing the things that I enjoy doing right now. There is no bigger picture vision down the road. And I think that leads to a life ultimately of stagnation and resentment. Because if we're not growing, as I've said many times on the podcast, if we're not growing, we're dying. If we don't have something that we are looking forward to as a way for us to become more fully developed human beings, to become humans that are living, as so many people often say, to our full potential, then we're going in the wrong direction. We're dying internally, sometimes externally, sometimes physically dying, but more importantly, mentally, spiritually, inwardly, cognitively, we're dying. So don't be short-sighted in your goal setting. If you have not put down on paper a big, hairy, audacious goal, more importantly for your life than for your business, this is super important for your business, but it's way more important for your life. If you don't have something that you are shooting for that's 15, 20, 25 years down the road, then you've got a major problem, because nothing that you are doing today makes any sense if you don't have a bigger picture vision. Hey, podcast listeners, I want to briefly interrupt today's episode to invite you to join me at the inaugural Freedom Fighter Summit in Asheville this October. This in-person only event is designed for growth-minded lawyers determined to take their criminal defense practice to the next level. Due to the size of the summit's venue, there are a limited number of seats available. Don't miss out on the incredible lineup of speakers and spectacular networking opportunity that this summit provides. For more details, visit www.miniclaw.com/summit. Enter the promo code NCDWI-GUY, all lowercase, all one word, at checkout for $150 off your summit ticket. Look forward to seeing you there. Now back to the show. And maybe the impossible dream is to have an incredible relationship with your spouse, to have an incredible relationship with your adult children and their kids, to be a grandparent that can be around for your kids and help support them as they grow up. Maybe that is your impossible dream. And I think that's a great impossible dream. Maybe your impossible dream is to be a saint, to be somebody that is, doing good in the world, helping out in the local community, making other people's lives better. That's awesome. But it takes a lot of planning in the short term to make sure that those long-term visions are getting achieved. Don't set a quarterly goal or a yearly goal for next year unless you have a reason for doing that. If you sit down tomorrow and you say, I want to make $1 million next year, Great. That's awesome. That's a good goal. If especially if that's 2 or 3 times what you're making right now. Maybe it's $100,000 more than you're making right now, whatever it might be. Maybe the goal is to break 100K. Maybe the goal is to break 250K. Whatever your goal is. And again, I'm just using financial goal as a example. But if you don't know why that's your goal, if that financial goal is not serving some bigger vision in your life, first of all, it's kind of pointless. And secondly, what's the difference if you achieve it? You're probably likely not to achieve it because it's not got any, there's no more power in that than in saying on December 31st, next year, I'm going to exercise 4 times a week. Why? Why are you going to exercise 4 times a week? It's great to exercise 4 times a week, but if you don't have a compelling long-term goal that exercise of 4 times a week is going to serve, then you got a problem. If you think 10 years down the road, I want to travel. I want to have the freedom to travel. Now you can have goals that start to serve that mission. You say, I want to travel all over Europe. That's like my long-term vision. Well, now you can start planning. What do I need to be earning this year to get to a point of financial freedom where I'm not tied to my job and I can go do this travel thing? If I'm going to travel all over Europe and I'm going to have to walk a lot, I need to be in physically good shape. So I'm going to start exercising so that I'll be ready for those, travel moments. If I'm going to travel, I want to go to these specific countries. I want to learn the language. I'm going to start learning the language now. Instead of, I'm going to learn Spanish next year. Well, why? I mean, if you're not going to talk to anybody that is, a Spanish speaker, whether it's here or in another country, what the heck is the point of learning Spanish? I mean, that's just, I want to learn to play the guitar. Well, great. But if you're not going to share that with somebody else, or you don't see that as, a part of your identity, then it's just like this pointless hobby that you're engaging in. So it's very important to have these long-term and not short-sighted goals. So point number 1, you got to have a compelling goal. Make sure it's compelling. Point number 2, don't be short-sighted. Point number 3, it's got to be your big, hairy, audacious goal. Your long-term project has to, in some way, in my opinion, be connected to serving others. It's got to be in service of something bigger than yourself. Again, if you look at the song from Don Quixote, none of it is about, I'm going to achieve all this glory. And then, when I've reached the unreachable star, they're going to set me on a throne and worship me, right? No, it's all about being in service of others. To love pure and chaste from afar, right? To love in a way that's not self-serving. To love others for themselves, right? St. Thomas Aquinas would say love is willing the good of another person. It's not this kind of selfish, what makes me feel good. It's willing the good of another. To love pure and chaste from afar. To be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. To fight for the right without question or pause. Right? It's all to fight the unbeatable foe. It's all about serving other people. That's why it's so compelling. That's why it's such a good mission. So again, going back to the vision, and it's okay when you go through this, but if the vision is, I want to sit on the beach drinking cocktails, it's not compelling. I'm going to tell you, it's just not compelling, because that's a self-serving long-term dream. If it's, I want to own a sports car or a, fancy house, in the mountains, or whatever it might be, if, this amazing vacation, those are all nice things to put on the bucket list. That's fine. You can put them on the bucket list, and maybe traveling around in a convertible really enhances the travel experience if that's part of what your kind of long-term vision is. But the bucket list is different than the big, hairy, audacious goal. I think that with the big, hairy, audacious goal, having it focused on building relationships, building community, working for a specific cause greater than yourself that you believe in, that's going to be something that you can much more likely get on board with. And again, I think that's why so many of these New Year's resolutions that we set, eating healthier, exercising, reading more, all of those things are actually really good for us. But it's hard for us to justify doing those things until we can, again, see how those things are about serving others. They always talk about how, with our kind of modern day book section of self-help books, we have this whole section that's dedicated to self-help, and I think self-help, self-care is very important. The saying goes, put on your own oxygen mask in a plane that's going down before you try to put on your child's or the passenger sitting next to you, because you can't take care of them if you don't take care of yourself. That's like this whole idea behind self-care, and I think that there is a big element of truth in that. But again, let's not forget that the purpose of putting your own mask on first is so that you can help other people get their masks on. It's not so that you save yourself in the plane that's going down. It's so that you have the ability to help other people. So the reason you don't go to helping other people first in that example, putting on your own oxygen mask first, is because you won't be able to appropriately take care of them if you don't have your own oxygen mask on. You will be of no service to them. But the saying isn't, put your own oxygen mask on first and to hell with everybody else on the plane. No, it's put on your own oxygen mask before putting other people's on. Self-care only makes sense when it is designed as a tool for us to be refreshed and energized when we go into helping other people, into helping our community. So any big, hairy, audacious goal, if there doesn't seem to be an element of service to a higher cause, to a group of people, to another person or our family, whoever it might be specifically, to me, it's a goal that is not going to last. It's not compelling. It's not honestly something that's worthwhile going into. So I think those are three places where goals really fail. I think take some time. I'm telling you right now. I mean, the people that chew on this, they go, oh, there's some good points, or maybe you just think this is a bunch of BS, and that's totally fine too. But the people that take this and chew on it, like, oh yeah, that's some good points, but then don't sit down and set goals that scare them, are living a life of comfortable complacency. Colin O'Brady, again, cannot wait for this guy to be speaking at the Freedom Fighter Summit here in a couple of weeks. I mean, it's pretty dang exciting. I'm super pumped about him being at the summit. Super excited about the summit. Every day that passes, there's boxes of fun stuff coming in that we're going to be giving out at the Freedom Fighter Summit. I'm kind of making final scheduling decisions about things happening at the summit, get music ready to go, talking on a regular basis with our team at the office that's putting this on, with our contacts at the Hill. I mean, it's just going to be an awesome event. But Colin O'Brady in particular has me super excited about the summit. And one thing that he says is that, if you can think of, the worst day that you've ever had being a 1, and the best day that you've ever had being a 10, whether it was the birth of your child, or some huge goal that you were able to achieve in your personal or in your professional life. The one being, losing a loved one, getting fired from a job, breaking a bone and suffering incredible pain, or missing out on some experience that you are going to be able to go on. What he says is that obviously all of us would love to live day after day of 10 lives, day after day of living at the 10 point. But what he says is that most of us spend the vast majority of our lives living between a 4 and a 6, right? Our team wins a game on Sunday. Oh, we're at a 6. It was a great afternoon. Got to spend some time with my friends, drank a couple beers, enjoyed the game. Awesome. It was a 6. Number 4, had a client that yelled at me at work. Got real upset about their case. I came home frustrated. Went to bed mad, whatever it might be. That was a 4 day. We spend most of our days living between these 4s and 6s. And in a lot of ways, it's because we're not pushing the envelope enough. One thing, again, he says, you can't experience the 10s without experiencing the 1s. You can't experience the high highs without experiencing the low lows. But there's not enough 10s happening in the world. There really is not. There's not enough 10s. And the reason why is because it takes work, it takes commitment, it takes time to achieve the 10s. This is the moment to achieve some 10s, to start working on some 10s. If you don't have that big 10, 25-year picture, this is the moment to sit down and start working on that. If you're going into quarter number 4 and you do have those things, what rocks in the next 90 days are going to push you towards that big, hairy, audacious goal? How can you really push the envelope? The beautiful thing to me about the short-term goals, and I've talked about this on the podcast in the past, is that they really can help us to achieve that long-term success at a much faster pace than we ever thought possible. But again, you have to have that long-term vision in place to know where those rocks are going to be pushing. So set some aggressive rocks. How are we moving towards that long-term vision and goal, towards our 1-year goal, towards our big, hairy, audacious 10-year goal in this next 90 days? Get after it. Reach the unreachable star.